Alright, today we're going to hit you with something a little bit different. We're going to go for a weapon tier list because there's been a lot of nerfs and changes recently in Apex, and I think it's about time we did this because, you know what, be something fun, be something different, and see what my take is on it as just a casual player, not like a pro or anything rating these, just how it feels to play as a casual, playing this game, and what is the best weapon for like a casual, because, you know, some weapons will be better for like a pro who's got unreal aim, whereas others will be, you know, better for the casual player, like myself. That'll make it a lot easier to kill someone and get some high damage numbers and stuff like that. So, starting off with the 30-30, we'll work our way from left to right. 30-30, that has received a bunch of nerfs recently. I mean, taking away the skull piercer is a big one. I've barely used the gun recently, but for me, you know what, it's still a pretty decent gun. I'm going to stick it in B tier because I think it can still do some damage. It's a bit on the kind of low-key side of not many people pick it up anymore because they think, oh, there's no scully, it's no good anymore, but actually it still hits pretty hard, and it's good at like cracking shields and stuff like that, which especially in like, you know, if you're playing ranked or casual, you know, cracking shields initiates that push. So yeah, still a top tier weapon, I think. B tier, you know, probably about right for it. Alright, now coming in with the Alternator. I'm going to sit that in at C tier, alright, because that gun is probably the best gun that you can drop on, right? If you drop and you pick up an Alternator, it is so good. Apart from maybe the PK, the Alternator is just so good. It just absolutely shreds like white armor and like flesh and stuff like that. But without like the disruptor rounds, it's nothing that you're going to take into the end game. Like by the time that you've got blue shields, or you know, you're coming into that kind of mid-end game thing, you're probably going to want to be swapping it out for something a little bit different. And for that reason, I'm probably going to stick it in C tier because although it still does like a decent amount of damage, like I say, best gun on drop, but you're not taking that thing to the end fight. Alright, next coming in is the bow. Now this is going to be a little bit controversial, I guess, because I know a lot of people don't like the bow, not many people take it from the care package, but I'm going to stick it in at A tier because it is a risk-reward weapon, right? You hit, I think it's like 70 base, and you can hit like 120, 126 something headshots. Yeah, that thing is lethal if you can hit your shots, but it's the key point, can you hit your shots, right? But yeah, for a good player, even I think a casual, if you get used to using it, I know it's pretty hard because it's in a care package, but yeah, it's definitely worth taking because, you know, 3 like arrows, and I'm pretty sure you can get close to downing someone if they haven't got red armor at least anyway. But yeah, I think it's a good weapon, very underrated, very underused. Yeah, and it's such a fun weapon to use as well. Like, who doesn't want to use a bow? Alright, coming in next, we have the CAR. I'm going to stick that in B tier. I'm going to put it in front of the 30-30. SMGs are just overpowered by shotguns at the minute. You know, they need some buffs. I do like the CAR. I think it's a good weapon. And, you know, it's a good versatile one. You can switch between ammo and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just, if you're coming up against a shotgun, you're probably going to lose. It needs a buff. They need buffing, or they need to nerf the shotguns. They need to do something just to make it a bit more of a level playing field. That being said, I think it probably is one of the most level kind of playing fields we've got in terms of weapon nerfs at the minute. There's just a few that probably need turning down just a little bit, and a few little tiny buffs here and there, but we are not far off the fact that I think every weapon is pretty much usable. But yeah, well, speaking of everyone which is usable, one which isn't, charge rifle, F tier. That thing is awful. It's terrible. Whoever's picking up a charge rifle these days, I don't see anybody use it. I mean, considering loads and loads of people used to have it when it was the hit scan thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was super annoying to have that gun when it was in its prime state, and even the point when it got nerfed, when it had like the laser thing and then it hit you with the big one. Like, that was annoying, but it made it usable. I'd almost be tempted to bring it back to that, or I don't know, they need to change something with this kind of like fire it, because even though you could argue it's like another kind of risk reward one similar to the bow in that you have to charge it with shot to then hit them, it's just, it's so hard to hit that shot and time it right. So yeah, that thing needs, I think, another rework because it is just absolutely trash. Like, I've not used it, I don't think, once since it's been like updated. Well, like maybe 1 or 2 times it's been updated, but I don't use it like in this last season. I've probably used it never. But yeah, like since season 22, I've never used that weapon. Yeah, just don't use it all. Throw it to the side. Every other sniper's better than this. Every other gun is better than this. It's the worst gun by far. Alright, up next with Diva, it's going straight into S tier. That thing is absolutely unbelievably good. Like, you've got to take one of them. Unless you have, like, well, I don't know what you wouldn't drop for it, to be honest. Unless maybe you have one of the other care package weapons. But, yeah, that thing absolutely shreds. Like, maybe it could be a little bit quicker on the speed up, but I mean, ultimately, I think it's a really good weapon. Personally, I don't really like normal weapons being in care packages. I think things that should be in the care package are like the bow, the Kraber, and then, I don't know, maybe they should think of 2 other weapons to maybe put in there that are just a little bit different. You know, I've seen rumours of like a grenade launcher. I know that'd be a bit stupid, but, you know, maybe chuck something like that in there. I think specific care package weapons are probably the way to go now, instead of taking weapons off the floor and buffing them really highly, because I don't think it works in some cases, which we'll get to. But in the Devo, yeah, it does work because it's absolutely unbelievable. And yeah, it's definitely S tier. That thing just absolutely shreds. And with the hipfire thing with LMGs now, that is just insanely good. And then up next, we have the Eva 8. And I'm going to stick this in A tier, right? Because that thing, I mean, it's a bit weird. Sometimes it absolutely shreds and sometimes it doesn't. I'm tempted, it's probably in between A and B, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to stick it in A because, again, similar to the Alternator, off drop, that thing absolutely shreds, but you can take this to endgame. With a gold bolt on it, it fires so quick. It is such a good weapon. I mean, all shotguns are in a good place right now, but yeah, the Eva 8, people sleep on it a little bit. I highly rate it. I think it's a very good shotgun. It's probably going to be on the low end of the A scale, but either way, it's still a top quality weapon. All right, up next, we have the Flatline. We're probably going to stick that in, you know what, I'm going to stick it ahead of the bow. I think it's the best assault rifle that you can pick up right now off the ground. The damage is good. I know they've nerfed it a little bit with the magazine size, but that doesn't really affect it too much. It's probably one of the only guns that it feels doable to not only crack someone on red shields, but down them in the same mag. Like, if you've got, especially if you've got like a gold or purple mag, you can easily do that with a flatline. I think some of the assault rifles kind of struggle in that area, but yeah, it's still another solid weapon. I think it's, yeah, my favourite AR in the game, and yeah, I'm going to stick it right in the top of A tier. Up next, we have the G7 Scout. You know what? Before I used it the other day, I probably would have stuck it in C tier, but I'm tempted to put it in A. I'm going to stick it high B. Again, this is like another gun that's just probably switching in between both of these, A and B. If you can hit your shots with it, which most people can, I think it's very much kind of a controller weapon. It feels like that anyway. Like, I used to love it on controller. On keyboard and mouse, I don't like it as much, but I had a really good game the other day with it. And that's why I'm going to stick it in high B. Like, it is so good once it's fully kitted, and I still can't work out what the best scope is to use on it, especially on MNK. I don't know if it's a 3 times, maybe 2 to 4. I feel like the 2's not that good on it. Yeah, but it's great at like just ticking away shields and getting knocks here and there. It's a really good weapon. No matter what shield someone's using, you've probably got enough bullets in the mag that even if you miss a couple, you're probably still going to potentially get a down on someone if you get hit the majority of the bullets. Yeah, it's a good weapon. Good weapon for 4K as well, you know, taking away little bits of damage. Again, though, if you can hit your shots, it's very good. Like I said, probably is edging towards A, but we're going to stick it in B for here. Alright, up next we have the Havoc, which I'm going to stick in right here, alright. Not many people use it since it got so-called nerfed, but I'm telling you right now, if you get a fully kitted Havoc with the turbocharger, that thing is still pushing probably S tier. It is so good. We're going to stick it in here just because turbochargers are pretty hard to find, but even with like, you know, just a purple mag and that's all you have, that thing absolutely shreds. It's such a good weapon still. However, you know, rumours are turbocharger is leaving us in the next season, so when that happens, I think this will move down into B tier and probably be around this mark here. But for now, we're going to stick it in A tier because, you know, as of this recording, the turbocharger is still here. This may release this video when the turbocharger's gone, so yeah, we'll stick it in A, but be in mind that turbocharger goes, it's probably in like a high B category. Alright, up next, we have the Hemlok. I'm going to stick that straight in A. Probably in there, I reckon. It's still a really good weapon. Again, not many people take it since it had its like kind of little nerf on it, but ultimately it's still really good. Like, you know, you can spray people down, crack shields, get knocks pretty easy with it, and yeah, it's just a really good all-round AR weapon. I don't understand why people don't take it as much. I barely see people take it anymore. I think the only thing that lets it down is the iron sights. They're pretty terrible. You definitely need a sight on it, but yeah, once you've got a sight, that thing's still such a good weapon. Alright, up next, Kraber, straight in S tier, best weapon on the game in my mind. It is so good. I love that gun. It's the #1 weapon that I will sprint to a care package to get. I mean, it just does so much damage. I know you kind of have to hit your shots, but it's not too hard to hit a sniper shot on this game. And yeah, it's just great. The damage output is incredible. You can get knocks, you can get, even when you get a crack, you're knocking someone down to probably like 20 HP or something like that. So yeah, it's such a good weapon. I don't need to tell you anything about the Kraber. Everyone knows about it. It's Season 0 OG, unbelievable care package weapon, and yeah, love it, always have done. Alright, up next we have the L-Star, which I'm going to stick in high B tier. That thing is kind of slept on a little bit, the L-Star. I honestly think with a 3 times on it, it absolutely fries. It doesn't seem to be that much recoil, especially when you start going. I know the initial burst kind of bounces a little bit, but yeah, ultimately you can just absolutely fry with it. But I think it does struggle a little bit in endgame. When people start getting like purple and red shields, it doesn't seem to fry as much. I think it's similar to the Alternator, like it's a little bit of an early game weapon, but you can definitely use it like towards the end. You just have to make sure that you can control the recoil a lot more. But yeah, stick a 3 times on it. Honestly, try it. You will not be disappointed. A weapon that used to be in the care package and used to be pretty terrible in the care package until it had the stupid disruptor thing on it as well when it went back in again and made it crazy. But yeah, ultimately I think that gun's in a really, really good spot at the minute. I don't think it needs any touching. Perfect, really good weapon to use. Alright, up next we have the Longbow. That is close to sitting in F tier, but I will stick it in C. Again, this is really drifting into the F tier. Longbow I don't think I've barely used at all this season. Another gun that's taken a bunch of nerfs, taken the skull piercer away from it, it's made it even worse as well. I think if you can hit your shots with it, it's alright, but there's other weapons that are miles better at doing that. The G7 Scout does such a better job than the Longbow does, and yeah, for that reason I'm sticking it in C tier. I barely see anybody use a Longbow, and when I do see someone using a Longbow, I'm pushing them immediately because I'm thinking this person doesn't know much about Apex when they're taking a Longbow. So yeah, C tier for me. It's just no good. Alright, up next we have the Mastiff. That is going straight up into A tier, high end, pushing S tier. That thing shreds. Aim down sights, you can hit people for like 70, 80 from miles away with it now. With this, the bullet like spread is so tight now that you can just, yeah, you can basically snipe people with that gun. It's basically a better version of the Longbow. But yeah, it's so good. Shotguns are so dominant this season, and yeah, that's one of the best shotguns that you can take. It is such a good gun, and yeah, you know, if people haven't used the Mastiff, which everyone probably has, do use it because it is so good. However, there is only one gun that can stop the Mastiff from being so good, and that is the Mozambique, which I'm going to stick in just behind the Kraber. It's potentially in front of the Kraber. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to stick it at the front. It's the most powerful gun on the game. Okay, dual wielding them with purple bolt and the hammer points, by far the best guns on the game. They are so good. They're broken, let's be honest. They're absolutely broken. You come across them, if you come across 2 people shooting you with them, no matter from what range, you just get absolutely destroyed. Even without the hammer points and without a bolt, if you're dual wielding them, you can still do enough damage that you probably like still rate this gun in like an A tier. But yeah, fully kitted, that thing is S tier. Don't need to tell you about it. I think everyone, you know, it's good. It's good to have some fun with them, but we're getting to the point now where I think at the end of this season, or maybe halfway through, we should look at potentially nerfing these because they're just daft. I know they won't do because I think they're going to be in the next battle pass, so we've probably got another season worth of silly Mozambiques until they finally sort it out. Alright, up next we have the Nemesis. I'm going to stick this in high B tier, I think. It's very, very good when it's fully charged. When it's fully amped up and you've fired like a few shots so it's all like revved up and powerful, that thing absolutely shreds and you can get like knocks pretty easy and stuff like that. But the initial kind of burst and getting there, it's just a little bit slower than it was. I mean, when it first came out, that gun was so good and so broken. Like, I dropped so many 4Ks with the Nemesis. It was my go-to weapon, but it just seems to get outclassed a little bit now in like different like ranges and stuff like that. And the hip fire is not as good as what it used to be. It used to have a really tight spread. It feels like it's not as good. I can't remember if it's had a nerf or not, but yeah, it's for me, it's a high B tier. It's pushing A tier, but I just don't think it's as good as the Hemlok. And also, I'm pretty sure they did like a nerf with energy weapon ammo. So yeah, it seems to be a lot harder to find energy weapon ammo these days. So yeah, I'm gonna stick it high B tier. Definitely one of the best in its class. All right, up next we have the P2020s. You know what? I'm going to stick them in probably here. All right. I know people think they're better than the Mozambiques. I just don't think they are. I think in more scenarios you can get better damage from, like, you know, they're definitely a lot better at range than the Mozambiques are, but the damage output is just, I just don't think it's as good as the Mozambique. And I still think a couple of these, like the Flatline and the Mastiff, they still deal like a lot of damage no matter what. The P2020s, you desperately need the hammer points on and dual wielding them and fully kitted with a light mag and everything. I know it's like you could say that about the Mozambique, they probably should sit down here, but yeah, I just think for me the high A tier, they're very, very good, don't get me wrong, they are definitely probably, I mean, they're probably pushing better than the Flatline. Yeah, you know what, I'll stick them high A, I'll stick them right at the top, because yeah, when you have got them fully kitted, the fire rate on them is outrageous. So yeah, I've convinced myself that they're better than what they were, but I'm not going to stick them in S tier, definitely the best of the A class. Alright, up next we have the PK. I'm going to stick that in just behind the Mastiff. I think it's, you know, like I say, shotguns are so like good this season, it's got to be up there. I just think it's a little bit more inconsistent than the Mastiff. I seem to hit a lot more like 8s and 11s with the PK than I do with the Mastiff. But when you do get that full blow of like 110 or something that it hits, so I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but that thing absolutely destroys you. So yeah, it's still going to be up there, and it's still just a quality weapon, the PK. Alright, up next we have the Prowler, and I'm actually going to stick this in here. There's something about it, you know, ever since it got like nerfed, when everyone found out how good it was, it's just never been the same. It's still like a decent weapon, but it falls into that bracket with the Alternator, that off drop. It's a really good weapon to have, but have you ever seen one of these endgame? I've never seen anyone take one. And if you're fighting someone with a Mastiff or PK or the Mozambiques, you're going to lose. It just doesn't fire like quick enough to do the damage. Even the P2020s do like a hell of a lot faster fire rate and damage than the Prowler does over time. Don't get me wrong, it's still a decent weapon and fun to use. If these weren't as powerful as what they were, it'd be like able to challenge against most of them. But yeah, for me, it's just a little bit worse than the CAR. I'd probably take a CAR over the Prowler. Yeah, the burst meta is not as good as what it used to be, but you know, it's still an okay weapon. You probably could take it to endgame if you wanted to, but if that person's got dual Moses, you're probably going to lose. Alright, so up next we have the 301, and this is going to be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to stick it in B tier. I think a lot of people would probably still stick it in like A tier and maybe push it into S, but I don't know. I know it's had a buff, like in that the magazine size has increased and stuff like that, but there's something about it that it just doesn't seem to do enough damage. The amount of times that I get cracks with the gun is, you know, phenomenal. It's a great damage weapon, but for actual killing, like the Flatline just does that extra bit more damage, that once you crack the shield, it's just a little bit easier to finish them off with a Flatline, whereas this, you seem to crack a shield, and then for me, they always seem to get away with like 10, 20 HP. I know it's probably like an aiming issue, but if it's an aiming issue, I can do it with a Flatline, but I can't do it with a 301. I don't know. And then the 301's probably got easier recoil than the Flatline. So, yeah, slightly controversial, I guess, but high B tier for me. It's still just missing something. It used to be, what, the best gun that you could say, the best AR, it'd be S tier a couple of seasons ago, but now, yeah, for me, it's B tier. It just seems to be a hard killing weapon. Alright, now we have the R-99. That is a care package weapon, and it shouldn't be. I mentioned it, that I don't think some weapons should be care package weapons. This is one which should have stayed on the floor. There's not many SMGs to go around. Not that they're any good anyway, but yeah, they decided to stick it in the care package. And for me, personally, it's probably the worst care package weapon we've ever had. I'm probably going to stick it just ahead of the Eva. I'll put it in A, but it is potentially pushing B. Don't get me wrong, the damage output is insane, like, and the recoil there's barely any, so you can absolutely beam people. But there's two things. Number one, it's a care package weapon, so it doesn't drop till late game. By late game, you may have already got fully kitted Mozambiques or any of these other weapons fully kitted by that time. Number two, the ammo, I think, what is it, 180 bullets that it comes with from the care package? Like, that is just not enough for like majority of the game. Like, you think if you're taking that in ranked by the time it drops, there's probably still at least like, I don't know, 7, 8 squads left. You probably can only deal with 1 or 2 squads with the amount of bullets that they've got, because bearing in mind those teams are probably going to have red, purple shields. The amount of bullets that you have to use to crack them and then get a knock, it's just, like 1/2 squad wipes, you're done. Which I know is like pretty good, but you think like all these other weapons, you've got ammo that you can find all along the way. The Kraber has 12 bullets, but 1 bullet is enough to knock someone. You've technically got like, what, 12 people there if you can hit all your shots, but or you can at least get a full crack and then push with one of these other weapons. Yeah, the 99 for me, it's just not worth it. They even needed to add, if they added more ammo, so it maybe had, I don't know, 340 rounds in the kind of reserve. I mean, I think even the Diva was like 280 or something, right? I think he had something similar to that. It'd probably be pushing a little bit higher on the A tier, but for me, it's just not worth it. I don't see like too many people taking it, because what are you going to trade it out for? You know what I mean? It's a close range weapon. You're not going to drop any long range weapons for it. So then you've got to think, okay, you might take it over a PK and Mastiff potentially, but even then, I think if you've got a 99, you come across close range with someone with a Mastiff, they're probably going to do you with like a 2-pump if they're lucky enough. Whereas the 99, you're probably going to get a spray enough to, like, I don't know, crack a shield, but are you going to get a kill with it? I'm not too sure. Alright, up next we have the Rampage. I'm sticking that in C tier. Okay, I hate that gun. I don't know what it is about it. I just can't stand it. I know technically it should be better now with the, you know, the LMG thing where you've got the bit of a shield, which is, I don't know, it feels like a bit like a gimmick. It doesn't seem to give you that much more health from when I've used it, you know, in terms of like protection. And also it's got the hip fire thing, right, where it gets tighter. That thing fires so slow that by the time it's tight, you've probably been Mastiff to death. Yeah, with the Thermite, it's very good. With the Thermite, it's probably up here in like a high B tier, but I mean, how often are you going to be carrying Thermites around and charging it? And it takes a while to charge with the Thermite as well. By the time you've charged it, you've probably either got a teammate knocked or they've knocked someone, and then you probably could have cleaned up with any of the other guns. Yeah, it's, for me, it's C tier. It's one of those guns that if I drop on it, I'm pretty happy with, because it's pretty cool at cracking, you know, white shields early on. With that slow fire rate, it doesn't matter too much when everyone's on like a low white/blue tier shield. But you come to purple and reds, there's just other weapons that fire a lot quicker and do a lot more damage a lot quicker over time. So yeah, for me, C tier all the way. Alright, up next, RE45. Again, another gun I think is C tier. I think it gets one of those that off drop is a brilliant weapon. It's very similar to the Alternator. Off drop, very good weapon. The only reason it's a little bit worse than the Rampage and Alternator is the range is just not as good. I know you can put hammer points on it, which I barely see anybody do anymore, because nobody takes this gun to endgame. Like nobody's like using the hammers on it. But the reason why they're not is because the P2020 and the Mozambique, if you come across either of them, then you're going to trade this out for them. Yeah, there's just no point. It's just an early drop weapon, which fair enough, you need a couple of them in the game. But yeah, I've never come across anybody in the final zone using an RE45 unless they've run out of bullets, because there's just no reason to use that gun. Alright, up next we have the Sentinel. I'm gonna stick that in B, just behind the thing. It's probably, I don't know, it's potentially a little bit better than the 301, I don't know. I love the Sentinel, don't get me wrong, I'm a full Sentinel enjoyer. It's such a fun gun to use, especially with this when it's charged up with a shield cell. It spits out so much damage. It's like a mini Kraber, right? Charged up, it's up there. It's definitely up there in S tier. However, you know, it's a bit slow to charge up in some fights. You know, you've got to kind of sit back and, you know, wait a couple of seconds whilst charging it up. Other guns, you can just be firing all that time. So yeah, for me, B tier overall, I think definitely is pushing up there once it's charged up. But again, it's another one of those kind of risk reward weapons. You know, there's not too many like, I don't know, I've not come across too many good snipers on the game, and if you're missing your shots, like I say you've not got a mag, you've got 5 bullets and you miss all 5 bullets when that person's running at you, you're probably dead. So yeah, for me, B tier, but I do love that gun. Personally, I want to put it in S, but I'm thinking with my brain here, not with my heart, and I'm going to stick it in B. Okay, up next we have the Spitfire, and I'm a bit 50-50 with the Spitfire. I'm probably going to stick it in... I think I'm going to stick it there, trying the G7. It's one of those guns that the damage is incredibly low, but the mag size in just how big it is kind of offsets it a little bit, because you can just keep spraying forever. But the problem is, if you're in a one-on-one spray, so say someone has you'll have the Spitfire and someone has a flatline, and you're challenging them 1v1, they're probably just going to down you by the time you've done enough bullets to down them. Like, the damage output on the flatline, it's so much higher than a Spitty, and the fire rate's still a little bit slow on the Spitfire. To think that this gun, how good it used to be in like the early seasons, and even when it went in the care package, it was such a good gun. For now, it's one of those, like, you can use it all the way to the end, like I have. It's a really good damage weapon, but again, in terms of like a kill weapon, easy to crack shields, but doing that extra bit of damage, they might have moved out of the way by the time you've done that amount of damage, just because it's just, yeah, it's just so low on it. Yeah, me, B tier. It's an okay weapon. Okay, up next, triple take. Again, I'm probably going to stick this in around here. It's not a bad gun, but it's not a fun gun, if that makes sense. It's just, I don't know, it's just a bit boring to use. And it's another one of those that I struggle to use a little bit. I think, you know, when you have the thing that kind of closes in and does that extra little bit of damage, that's brilliant. Like, if you hit someone with that or hit a headshot, you're doing like, what, something like 100 and something damage, 100, 110 damage when it's real tight. Loads of damage, but you've got to wait them few seconds for that to close before you can do that. Most of the time you're just going to be firing it over and over again, which then it's only doing, I think it's about 30 damage or something like that, 30, 40 damage. It's pretty low. And again, it probably suffers in the fact that there's just so many other weapons better than it. It's like I say, it's an okay gun. It's one of those that you can use a little bit close range, like a shotgun sometimes if you're panicking. Another one where off drop, I'm not too upset about having it. But yeah, it's for me, it's probably in B tier. It's just, yeah, there's so many other weapons better than this. Alright, up next we have the Vault. I'm going to stick it with the CAR, just because I think it suffers similar to what the others do. I think all these weapons here are really close. Like I say, SMG is just getting outpowered massively by shotguns at the minute. It is a very good gun, the Vault. I do like it, I do enjoy it, but it just doesn't feel like it does enough damage for me. The other guns just seem so much better. You know, you're not going to... It's not the greatest at long range. It's getting outdone at short range. It's like a bit of a medium range weapon at the minute, but medium range, you know, you've got ARs that can do that job as well. They do the medium to long range. You're probably going to take one of them over the Vault. Yeah, B tier for me, sits there with the CAR. It's a good weapon, but it's not a great weapon. And then, up last, we have the Wingman. And I'm going to stick the Wingman in C tier. They've done it dirty. Okay, that gun used to be so good, but with the reduced like mag size, no scully either, it's just not worth it. It's not even a risk reward weapon anymore, right? Because you've got, what is it, 6 bullets I think in a mag, something like that. I know you can have the thingy reloaded so you get 8, but most of the time you're probably going to be running around with a 6. That's probably enough to just do one person, just like, and you've got to hit all your shots, right? Let's say you're just like an average player like me. You're probably going to hit enough shots that you crack someone. By the time you crack someone, you probably have to then switch to one of your other weapons to try and finish them off. And then when you finish them off, the other 2 members, when they come over, you've then got to reload both weapons. Whereas some of these, you can, you know, let's say you've got a flatline, you could probably down and crack somebody, or crack and down somebody, and then you could switch to your Mastiff and challenge the other 2 by the time they've got there, or at least put them off or something. The Wingman, it just doesn't offer that. It's, yeah, risk reward to the highest degree, in that it's probably not even worth taking. Like, I've tried to run it a couple of times this season, and it's such an enjoyable gun to use, right? The Wingman. I love how it like kind of sounds and feels and just everything about it, but it's just not worth taking until they either buff the mag size back to a lot higher, or they add the skull piercer back in, which probably won't happen for another couple of seasons now. That thing is going to sit in a low C bracket. Anyways, that's my weapon tier list. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think. If you think some guns should be higher, you probably should, because I've got a load in B, right? I probably should have moved some of these down or up, but yeah, that's how I feel. That's how I think it is this season. You know, obviously things will probably change and this meta will change again, but for now, I think that's how everything sits and that's how I felt about it. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Been something a little bit different, and until the next one, catch you later. Peace.